Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Carl Fitzpatrick.
Southeast Radio.
Aonghus Shortt has established a breath test device which can detect possible food intolerances. Entering a market which has a worldwide customer base, Food Marble has recently completed a significant funding round and announced the creation of 25 new jobs. Aonghus, we'll be discussing Food Marble and the phenomenal product orders which it has received to date. But first, I'd like to hear about your own background.
From quite a young age, the internet was starting to become more of a thing in Ireland, and I had a company that designed websites and a company that hosted websites. And so there was a number of little things I was doing from a enterprise perspective coming up. But Food Marble would have been my first serious company.
And where did the idea for Food Marble come from?
It was actually my wife. Now she has a condition called a digestive condition called IBS, and it was interesting at that time. She was I could see she was really struggling with the condition. She'd been to the doctor, she'd been to specialists, and she wasn't getting better. And I just went to see what are the solutions out there, what's out there from a technology perspective, and kind of found out about breath analysis as a technology that was used in hospitals, and also found out that it could be used to identify how well you're digesting different types of foods.
So, once you identified that there was a gap in the market, how did you go about filling it?
Yeah, so I got a small team together, and we actually got onto this accelerator program that's run by a company with links to Ireland called SOSV, so it's Sean O'Sullivan Ventures. That's an accelerator program out in China, so all of us went out over to China, this particular one, and this would have been early 2016. We finished the design and development of the device itself and the app. And then at that point, we did a pre-order campaign. That would have been kind of 2017. And to really see, what is the scale of this? Because we knew there's a lot of people with the problems, but were there people out there who would be willing to use a device to be able to guide themselves through the process? And we found out there was a lot of interest. So we got, over $1 million, almost €1 million of pre-orders at that time. So people were willing to put up their money, for the promise of us delivering this device to them. So that was really gratifying at that point.
As you say, you had over €1 million worth of pre-orders in, so the product definitely resonated with consumers from the very start. But what was the product that they were ordering?
Yeah, so it's a device. It's just a little device about the size of maybe like a tin of mints or something like that, if that makes sense to people. And so it's a breath analysis device. So you breathe into the device, and it's measuring certain components on your breath, and that relates to how well you're digesting the food that you've eaten recently. So it's a way to work out which foods you're able to digest effectively and which you can't. Because when you're not digesting them fully, it can lead to bloating and abdominal pain and all of those sort of classic digestive symptoms that affects a huge number of people. In the app, you record what your meals, so that the app knows what you're eating, so it can link those results to the breath tests. So you take the breath test between meals. So what we say is, you take it after you eat, take a breath test each hour, and over the day you get a really nice picture of whether the breath readings are going up and down. Where they do go up rapidly, that indicates that what you ate shortly before that wasn't being fully digested, and in fact your gut bacteria were breaking down the food rapidly, and that's what produced those gases. But that's a signal to you that that food is potentially problematic, and the app will show you what's in the food. So for example, it might be lactose in a dairy product. It might be fructose in a particular type of fruit, or all of these hard to digest components, which don't affect everybody. But you need to find out what you personally have difficulty digesting, because it differs from person to person.
So, Aonghus, talk to us about the technology that underpins the business.
Yeah, so it's a sensor-based device. So there's an array of sensors inside the device, and so when you breathe into the device, those sensor readings are being sent from the device to the phone, and then the phone can upload it to the web, and so that's how we're able to analyze what's on the breath, and then that links it through to whether it what you ate is causing a problem. And it's built on so it's a technique that's been done in hospitals and used by researchers for decades actually. But these were typically large, benchtop, expensive medical equipment. So what we've done is we've made it much smaller, much more cost effective. And so instead of something that you may or may not be able to access from some sort of specialist in a hospital, this is something that you can do for the home, and you can just go onto our website and buy it, and be able to go through that process of identifying your ideal foods at home.
And just on that point, how big a problem is food intolerance, both here in Ireland and internationally?
Yeah, so if you take the problem of IBS, which is it's a good clinical classification, which is well defined, that's about 1 in 8 people. So it's between 10 and 15% of the population would have IBS. Now, food intolerance is a broader problem, so it's less well defined, but it's about 25% to 30%. Would have significant food intolerances, but really it's a much larger number when you think of, if you take something like lactose. Outside of Europe and people of that sort of genetic lineage, lactose intolerance is commonplace. So so most people are lactose intolerant outside of mostly Northern Europe, parts of the US, Australia, and India. So you've got this sort of you've got a huge number of people worldwide who have these problems, and it extends beyond that. So we're developing new devices and new approaches where we're looking at the broader gut health issues, and also broader health, because the health of your gut, it influences the health of your whole body, and it influences your mind as well. So some really interesting connections between what you eat, your mood, and things like sleep and stress and anxiety. So it's a complex world that we're exploring.
And how has Food Marble been received by clinicians? And have you developed partnerships with healthcare providers and practitioners?
Yeah, so it's been really great, especially now. Like when you think of the pandemic, the ability to be able to test remotely has been very powerful. So we're working with clinicians mostly in the US, but the US in the UK as well, and we hope to get more collaborations in Ireland. We've got a clinical trial ongoing at Johns Hopkins over in the US at the moment, looking at a more advanced form of a particular medical test using breath.
Aonghus, I'd like to understand the revenue model that underpins the business itself. So are you generating revenue from the device or from a subscription fee built in for the app user, or both?
So right now it's from the device. In healthcare, it's a bit different, especially in the US. It's complicated, but because we're providing a test that is already well recognized and clinically useful, we can get paid from the insurance companies and from government-based insurance in the US. But in the future, we're looking to add on extra services that will hopefully be very useful to the users, which might be a subscription service. But yeah, right now it's selling the device.
And Aonghus, what's working for you from a marketing perspective? How are you reaching that target market, and what platforms are you using?
Yeah, so an important one for us is social media advertising. So between Google Ads, Facebook advertising, Instagram. We try to PR, of course, is very powerful for us as well, because it's a story that has resonated with a lot of people, and it's the sort of thing where as we grow, we're starting to look to other forms of advertising.
And talk to us about the recent funding round which has been completed, and what you thought of that particular experience and how you're going to use that investment.
Yeah, so was a great achievement, I suppose. First of all, to be able to raise money in the middle of a pandemic.
That's for sure. That is for sure.
So we were very pleased. So we took in about €2.5 million. Overall. Part of that was through conventional VC investors, and then part of that was we did a crowdfunding campaign as well through a platform called Seeders, and both worked out very well. And really the goal with the funds is really to be able to deepen what we're doing on the US market, both from expanding our consumer market, which includes retail. So we've got some really interesting retail opportunities in the US, which includes pharmacy. But then also in terms of healthcare, we've made some initial steps in the US, and there's doctors who are already offering our device to patients. But the US is a huge market, so we're going to use those funds to fully understand how we can maximize the potential of what we're doing over there.
And Food Marble announced that it is to create 25 new jobs. What type of roles will they be?
Yeah, so right now we've got, as I said, we've got 28 people in our Dublin office. Those roles will be, in Ireland, and so we do all our design, all of our engineering work, all of our R&D is based in Ireland. There's a number of sales and marketing roles we're hiring for, and supply chain is important for us as a global company, so we've a role there too. There's a whole range of roles that we'll be hiring for over the coming year. But yeah, we'll be more or less doubling up in terms of headcount over 2021.
Aonghus, earlier in the interview, you mentioned how you'll be using your technology for other gut-related illnesses and conditions. Talk to us about that and where you see the growth for the business over the coming years.
Yeah, so it's a really good question. The breath, there's a lot of molecules on the breath, a lot of things that you can detect on the breath that relate to health. So we're starting to do some research work where we're hoping to use it to be able to, A, diagnose particular conditions using the breath, but B, to be able to guide treatment. Our ideal is to move towards where we can prevent disease. So if somebody has their own device in the home that they could breathe into it, and we're detecting at an early stage if there's a problem, and that might mean that they might need to go go get another type of test in the hospital, but it means that we can detect things early.
Well, if you've just tuned in, that was Aonghus Shortt from Food Marble, and I think this is a business to watch over the years ahead.
Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Carl Fitzpatrick.